Member for Heysen.
Thanks, Acting Deputy Speaker. I rise to emphasise the long dry that's being suffered throughout the state. It's particularly being felt in the Heysen Hills, where so many of my local residents, constituents, are not connected to mains water and rely on their local water, whether it's underground water or rainwater tanks. And I welcome the fact that we've heard from the government today, for the first time I might say, some notion of something more than what's been described by my constituents in now several weeks as nothing more than a talk fest in response to what are urgent needs in need of an emergency response. When there's a fire or a flood, we don't go around blaming the victims. We get in and we respond as best we can. And this is no different. For those who find themselves without water, empty tanks, unable to wash, unable to clean clothes, unable to have something to drink at home, this requires an emergency response. The government needs to put a shoulder to the wheel and get real action. That means delivering water to my constituents among so many throughout the state. And I applaud my colleague, the Shadow Minister for Water Infrastructure, the member for Finnis, who now for many weeks has been calling on the government to do something, and not only that, but pointing to his own experience last time round when this government was in power, in fact, where practical solutions could be found and deployed, and they include getting a hold of milk tankers that aren't so much in constant use at this time of the year, suitable for deploying potable water, and getting it to where it's needed for those who are out of water at home. And I stress that this is felt far and wide across the hills, and it's a day-to-day acute matter requiring an urgent response. Communities including Mylor, Echunga, Crafers West, Kangarilla, Bradbury, as far north as Montacute, Scott Creek and Aldgate. Residents of those communities have been in contact with me and have been highlighting what I think all agree are the worst circumstances of dry for at least 30 years. Now, my constituents highlight that they are not looking for a handout. They are proudly resilient, they are proudly self-reliant, and for decades in many cases, they've been very ably managing the precious and scarce water resources that we all rely upon. But to give some examples, Nina at Mylor, who's in her 70s and has lived in the hills for decades, is now washing in a bucket. Mark at Bradbury, who's in his 70s and is acutely concerned about the public health risks that are associated with running dry. Lindy at Mylor has been shocked by the high cost of delivery of water, sometimes now on repeated occasions, if you can get it when you've put yourself in the queue. Matthew at Aldgate, who's a father of children he's caring for at their home. They've been desperate for water since February, and the queue now runs, we're told, until May. People have been waiting months for water, and of course, if we get through March now without rain, it'll be 5 months with basically no rain at all. And members ought also to be clearly aware of the fact that the pressure on local water, including tank water, extends to that water that ought to be kept aside for emergency response for the CFS. And Lisa at Montacute highlights that it is a very scary situation indeed when residents are forced to draw upon those resources that ought to be set aside to responding to bushfire emergencies. So just like that kind of emergency, this is a water emergency the government must get on and deliver, including for my residents in Heysen.